Welcome back to Project Ozone 2, Kappa Mode, episode 23. In today's video, I want to duplicate some Chaos Crystals, Chaos Shards, whatever they're called, from Draconic Evolution. If you're familiar with the process to get them normally, it's a little bit tedious. I'm going to need, dozens if not hundreds of these things. So I'm okay with taking advantage of a really cool exploit that somebody found years ago. I'll link to their Reddit thread and their YouTube video, kind of going over the technical details of it all, as well as a video from Etho. He made a good tutorial in his series on how to set this whole thing up. I've added a few little tweaks to my own design here, just kind of trying to add a bit of a safety mechanism. I don't know if it'll work, but ultimately at this point I need the shard to actually test it. Step 1. Get better armor. Even though I've got this really cool Draconic armor, apparently I want to get this Infinity armor. It stops all forms of death, even like /kill will not kill the player. So I just got to upgrade it. I'm pulling out my enchants. I don't think I can use them. I don't think I need to use them. I just feel like it's kind of a waste, right? So I don't know if I've showed this before, but it's kind of cool with Draconic. You can just click into the armor and pull out the enchants. Yeah, pulling out these cores is far more valuable than those books, actually. Alright, we saved 20 cores. I've prepared some crafting tables here. This is actually the world breaker. And I guess it's got some kind of, fortune 10 on it. So when I break these guardian crystals, I'm going to get 20. I think you normally get 5? And so I basically have everything prepared here to make 2 of them. One for me, one for the auto miner, except for the chaotic core, which is where, of course, I need the shard. So everything here is ready to go to make 2 of them. And then I also prepared the helmet. I don't know where it goes. Okay, that's embarrassing. Those are boots. And the chest piece and the leggings. Can I guess where it goes? Nope. And lastly, the boots. The key thing with this armor too is when I'm doing this duplication later, if you try to place those crystals, the game will actually kill you. The mod, Draconic Evolution, will kill the player because they detect that you're trying to do some cheaty business. So you need this armor to actually do this automation. What a weird cyborg looking character. For curiosity, what do you get? Well, you don't get anything. Oh no, you do. Lily Pad of Fertility. I don't think I mentioned it also, but I made a bunch of Soulbound spellbooks. They're really easy to make with Ender.io. I enchanted the Tinker's Construct Bow. I didn't know you could do that, but see how the prevents item on death loss? I should have done this like episodes ago. But I've enchanted, my teleportation, my pickaxe tools. I'm going to try to actually enchant this stuff now, but even my weapons. And also, in case I was to die and lose my armor, I think I enchanted the Ring of Flight. So it's pretty cool. You can enchant all this stuff. Oh, and the terminal. You can enchant this with Soulbound too, which is pretty crazy. It basically, you're invincible. Even if you die, you keep most of your important stuff. Soulbound. Oh, nice, it works. Essentially, at this point, I'm completely invincible, I guess. I can't think of needing anything else. I always find it important when going on these kind of Chaos Guardian expeditions to take a backup. I'm not interested in fighting and losing. I'm interested in doing automations. I didn't mention too the Tinker's tools. I made them out of infinity parts, infinity ingots, and so now I've got 875. My previous bow was like 130, and it could 3-shot a dragon. So this one's now, several orders of magnitude higher. Maybe I could have done a better job with the bolts. I just again made it out of infinity ingots. So there we go. It's already better than what I had, so I figure good enough, right? Judging by the mini map here, I'm flying insanely fast. This is actually like really cool. Okay, that's a little unexpected. I was thinking these were at like 10,000 blocks. I don't know if that's a mod pack change or it just was different in this version. But it's at 1,000 block intervals, I guess. My attack is blocked by the crystals. Okay. So he can't do like any damage to me, and he's extremely loud. Yeah, okay. So this is basically just a time sink. There's no way he's going to kill me, so there's nothing interesting about this. Wow. Okay, so that's kind of crazy. It's so loud that I can't even. I'm gonna say it's so loud I can't even talk. Okay, so we got that, and I'm pretty sure we're using. Yeah, we're using Mind Factory Reloaded. We got the Wanda animation. Now I should just be able to left click on this or right click. So you can't see it, but it was an invisible entity. Apparently that crystal turns into a mob with the animation wand, and I can duplicate him. And so here's the problem, is when we start duplicating these crystals shortly, we're going to have an explosion happening. So what the spatial pylons are going to do is they're going to capture that explosion. And we're just going to delete the disk. And we've proved to ourselves too that you take no damage. It's just, you're just okay, right? Which is pretty crazy. Alright, we are back at the duper. I don't see any problems with placing the safari net here, other than the fact that I don't know what it's called. Oh, we're still doing Awakened Draconium. So let's put this one in there. And then let's put the, no, not Infinity Block, Awakened Draconium. Perfect. Chaos Crystal. These are all the things that I duplicate. Let's turn off this magnet. So we can't actually see it, but I just heard a splash. He's taking damage. He's an invisible entity. I got about 6 crystals, very cool, but they're not actually the shard item we need. They're still like an entity. Alrighty, we are at the chaos spot, and I guess when you're doing some illegal activities or when you're near this crystal, it plays that weird little soundtrack. I'm getting tired of hearing. Perfect. So if I try to place this, it disappears. It's not a valid spot, but somebody, I'll post their details, of course, has made a list of coordinates that it'll actually allow placement. And one of them happens to be right where it is, the chaos spot. And if we go into journey map here and look at the waypoint, we will see this is the coordinate here. Notice the Y. The Y is 243. I am currently standing at 242, right? 242. So it is up 1 on that block. I mainly chose these coordinates because if you go to journey map here, it's the closest coordinates to my base, I think. And I did some testing in a creative world. I think it only blows up like 100 or so blocks, so we're really fine here. We don't want an explosion to happen because it's not the end of the world, other than the fact that I have to remake this, and it's a little bit tedious. Not tedious, but you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to rebuild it. Crystal's here, we're going to break it, and we are going to click this button on the spatial I/O port, and then it is going to package the explosion in these drives. But for right now, manual. This is kind of funny. This is anticlimactic. You can't break the crystal, right? Or no, am I wrong? Do I just have this set wrong? Maybe that is the reason why they use the world breaker. I thought that was just to get max fortune. But maybe there's something in the mod too that if a player does place it, it stops you from breaking it. It gives it like bedrock properties maybe. That means I have to go out and actually kill one guardian. So I went east last time. This time I'm going to go north. I probably should get ready for a fight, maybe? I wonder, can I just take the crystal? You know what? It just occurred to me. I don't think you have to fight. I don't think you have to actually kill it. My goodness, this fight would not be so bad if it wasn't so loud. Like, you can't control the volume. It's crazy. There was clearly some kind of barrier across this thing. Okay, this is a little annoying. The barrier's gone, but I can't mine this. And what drives me crazy is the volume of the game. It's so loud. What if I just voided it? What if I just broke this and then it just broke into nothing? Okay, that worked. That's so crazy this thing wouldn't work. I probably have it configured incorrectly, I guess. I just don't know, like, how. Like, it's set to... Well, that's area of attack, right? Dig depth. We can crank that back down to 1. We don't want it too crazy. And same with size. Size of 1. EO safe mode. Dig speed. Dig speed can go back down to like 30%. You seem to have fallen out of the world. Wow, already 114 crystals. So the crystal is the mob drop or the entity, and then the shard is actually the important piece that we need. See how they kind of look the same? The shard. I don't know why I could not get this thing to break it. Doesn't matter. Let's make the chaotic core. Very cool. Can't dupe it with the EMC, which is pretty unfortunate. So it only uses actually 1 shard. Interesting. I might as well make 2 of those. Now what can we use these things for? Oh, the chaotic ingots. Interesting. Go to our dire crafting table. Pop 2 of those in. So we'll grab those pieces out. There's the world breaker. Now, what are the odds that I have to place this exactly in the right spot? And let's make sure we're using the right Draconic staff. I've made 3 of these total in this Let's Play, which is kind of crazy. Cool, we have 2 world breakers. Alrighty, let's try that again. But first, let's turn off this waypoint. Okay, everything is now more obvious to me. I can clearly see that that barrier is here. I guess the waypoint was kind of distracting me. So we do need the world breaker. It is part of the mod's protection, I guess, for this kind of exploit. So that's fine. We can just break it, I guess, now. And we broke too much stuff. And there should be an explosion happening. Okay. I am not gonna lie, I got a little freaked out there. I guess because the sounds are off, I didn't hear the thing. Demonstration time here. First, the boots. I took them off. I'm flying way too fast. It's kind of annoying. Luckily, I still got this ring of flight, and hopefully I don't touch those chaos shards or crystals and get myself killed accidentally. I think I'll be fine. This setup here is a little cluttered, so definitely if you were trying to build this for some reason, you know, check out the 2 videos I linked. They're better tutorials. They're easier to see and to understand. I think I will talk about it first, and then I'll do a demonstration at the end. So if you're interested in that, just, you know, skip to the relevant part. But we got the AE2 quantum ring here, so we're linked. We're connected to the main system, which is the goal of this series. AE2 connections everywhere, 1 system. So we got 5 channels. The spatial I/O seems to use 4, plus the interface is 5. And I think it's because of the 3 coordinates, like your XYZ plus the vertice. This spatial IO port is the 5th one. So that's cool. And if we come to the front side, another 5 channels for a total of 10 are being used. So we got an interface again, we got a storage bus, a storage monitor, plus 2 emitters. And then of course we have the energy acceptor, a big old battery, and a solar panel. And then the only other thing using power is the autonomous activator. No redstone control, it's just kind of running all the time. Left click action, first slot with the world breaker. And it doesn't say it here, but up on JEI it would say like Fortune 10 or Fortune X. It seems to work fine. I get, 1 shard, or no, sorry, I get 20 shards for 1 crystal instead of, 5. Okay, so I got the computer off right now, and we have our block placer. So let's look at this interface here. Basically, it's got a recipe. 1 crystal should give me 20 shards. It's got blocking mode enabled. So basically, if there's already items in the placer, do not push more in case I have some kind of, jam or something. I don't want to have crystals just getting pumped in here. You can see the computer will send a redstone pulse, or we can manually activate it, and it places it. It automatically breaks it, and then we have to push this button to capture the explosion and send it to the modular storage. I'm saving them just because I think it could be cool to maybe use them later and have something blow up. But back here is a trash can, so it's got a priority of -1 on the conduit. So for some reason the modular storage is full, it's got 300, it will go to the trash can. So we ask for 1 shard. It's going to push the crystal into the placer. We push the button, it automatically breaks. Item collector picks up the items, puts them back into the A2 system, explosion's happening, and we capture it. And that always kind of freaks me out, but it seems like nothing exploded. So we've already got a new storage cell in here, you can see. And if we click here, we can see the storage size 1 by 1 on all of these, versus that piece of text is not on here because it's a brand new storage cell. I'm kind of struggling, this is not my first time trying to record this here, of how to explain this elegantly, because first off, I'm not a strong programmer, so definitely this is me kind of explaining my understanding of things. I may not be technically correct or, at all, but correct me if you see something or hear something that's not right. But anyways, the way this whole control strategy works here for ComputerCraft is we're dealing with 2 redstone input signals and 2 redstone output signals, plus a little bit of timing, os.sleep, to safely handle the crystal duplication and getting rid of the explosion. If we look at this emitter here on the left, it's basically my enable. If my AE2 system is asking for Chaos Shards to get made, because we have the crafting card in there, it gives us this really cool option to emit a redstone signal while the item is being auto-crafted. There's also an option here to emit a signal to craft the item, but in this case I just want kind of more of a status. Emit redstone signal when it's being auto-crafted. That's kind of our enable. And right now you'll see it's on, which actually kind of surprises me. I almost think that's a defect from doing this. Yeah, it's some kind of a invalid state or something. It looks like it's fixed now, because yeah, we were not asking for that item to be auto-crafted. So that's cool. That's our enable. That's when AE2 is saying, hey, make me shards. And this is just my safety mechanism. Basically, only allow this ComputerCraft thing to run if there's drives. And if for some reason we run below 100, I'm just going to have to make more. So those are the 2 inputs. Now the 2 outputs. The one on the right is going to the placer. So when our interface in the back here, pushes the recipe in, the 1 crystal, and places it, it'll automatically get broken. And I think I covered this already, but regardless, 1 crystal to 2 shards with blocking mode enabled. And then on the back, just a wire, a conduit that goes here to the other side of the spatial IO port. gives it a pulse, which just tells it to capture whatever's here, or nothing. Like right now, if I was to run this, it would just capture nothing and then, waste a storage drive. So what I like to do is name my sides. Like when I go set output, I don't want to say, set output right. I want to say set output to the placer, which then I know is the right side. So these two output redstone signals, the placement and the explosion removal, they have two functions I've made. It's basically code reusal. So when I say place crystal in my program further down, it's going to run these pieces of text all the time. It's going to, print some text. It's going to set the output high for a half second and then set it low and then sleep for a few more seconds. Just kind of to slow everything down. I don't want stuff running really quickly because the computer will run and calculate things quicker than things will happen in the game. And then the other thing is the remove explosion. Same idea. We're going to set the output side to removal true, wait a half second, and then false. It's kind of that pulse action that's allowing the spatial IO pylon to grab whatever is in this 1x1 spot. So all this code here is just kind of, boring stuff, like nothing's actually happening yet. When we run this script, this is the first thing that actually runs. Print the text, running the Chaos Shard farm, and then remove explosion. Notice my comment. Burn a spatial disk on startup. So when we first run this script, on world load or chunk load, the script is going to run, it's going to print the text, it's going to remove an explosion. Just in case my game crashes or something, or I close the game and it's an explosion's happening, I don't want to, load back in my game and then find out there's an explosion that just went off and destroyed this contraption I made. So anytime this chunk loads and gets turned on, we're going to just burn a disk. We're going to waste a disk. And so some of these contain explosions that'll ruin your day. Other ones are just empty. They're pretty cheap to make. You can see I've got like 1,000 of them. I'm not super worried about them. It's kind of a safety feature. Because again, we're not loading into the game that often, like maybe I'll do it another 500 more times before I beat this pack. I guess the other thing I should mention is if we exit the script, we got two files. I'm kind of mentioning this mainly for myself too. In these older versions of ComputerCraft, anyway, if you make a startup file, and don't call it startup.lua, just call it startup, and you edit it. Anytime the chunk loads or you turn on your game, it's going to run shell.run whatever script you want. I could put my whole program in here. I just would rather have my program in its own file with a good descriptive name. So yeah, startup is just making sure whenever the chunk loads that this script is going to run. So we scroll back down here. So now this is the code that kind of runs all the time. So once I load my game, when I'm running, I'm playing, all this happens. It'll never happen again. It's just going to run indefinitely in here. When you're in loops, you have to have your program do like a yield to the rest of the Minecraft game so other things can happen. If you don't let your program yield, it will just kind of crash. Like for instance, if I was to get rid of OS sleep, if we do while true, we get here, and if this code isn't going to run and do anything, it's just going to go straight from if false to end back up to true. You can see how it's not allowing anything to yield and do other tasks. So if we just run this, we're going to see it's going to crash after a while. We have a typo. When did I do that? Oh, yeah, I was doing some code cleanup here. I didn't like that this if statement was all in one line because it was going off the screen. If we run this now, we're going to see it's going to crash. It runs the initialization stuff, but if I look at this computer for, 5 or 10 seconds, it's going to go lightly gray on the black screen. There it goes. So now the program's not running anymore, and it's because it wasn't yielding to the rest of Minecraft, so it just shut itself off. It's a bad script. So that's what the OS sleep does. It allows it to yield to do other things. You can also use this pull event. Basically, if any redstone changes happen around the computer, it can detect that. I just don't know if I trust it in this situation to always run my code. So I'm not going to, I've decided to not use that. But notice now when we're running in here, if we're doing things, once we call place crystal or remove explosion, we all of a sudden bounce up to these functions and then sleeping's happening. So there's lots of yielding happening in this program now. If AE2 is asking for items to get made and we can safely get rid of the explosion, then place the crystal, which is going to go up to this function. We're going to, send a pulse, wait a half second, turn the pulse off, and then sleep. Then after that, it's going to remove explosion. And notice the code removal. We call remove explosion here and here. So we're reusing this chunk of code, which is the same thing. We're sending a pulse, waiting a half second. So the program's running, and it should not crash now that we have that sleep function back in, I hope. So nothing's going to happen here. This thing should be empty. Good. Time for the actual demonstration. Let's ask for a shard. We give it a crystal. We get 2 shards, 20 shards. That happens very quickly. Let's try to slow that down. Notice every time I come in here and do some tweaking and rerun it, I'm going to be burning another disk. That's fine. Once I actually get this program ironed out. So let's actually pause this a bit more. Instead of waiting 3 seconds after we place it, let's wait an extra 5. I think that'll be fine. Yeah, so we don't even see it forming. Oh, we do. I was getting scared there. I was getting ready to push that button. 18. Yeah, so we were at 16. It burned one on load, and then it grabbed the other one. I think that is super cool. You know what I just realized? If that was to explode, I'd obviously reload my backup, but I would have died and all this would have got erased. Gotta keep those boots on. You just move too fast. Wow. Chaos crystals, 600. I probably should turn my farm off. I don't want to waste all my mob essence. I think that's a pretty good thumbnail. I guess the other thing I forgot to mention, in terms of my safety mechanisms, which seem to be working as I hoped, as I designed rather, is it shouldn't be able to place a crystal. Because if this is off because there's no power, like let's say we run out of power, and so this spatial IO pylon cannot get rid of the explosion, that should never have been able to happen because this emitter would have no power, so then, it never would have started running the program in the first place. And we've got such a big battery here, that's like overkill. I guess we got some bonus footage here. I always think it's so handy to put everything on the network. Like being able to be over here in the moon and I can just grab an explosion. That's maybe an explosion? Maybe it's not, I don't know. Let's put the button on here. Let's pop that inside. I guess we can consider this kind of like Russian roulette. Well, I'm thoroughly confused here. Why are you not placing anything? I was getting so confused there. I was placing cables down, but apparently it wants an energy cell, which I guess my quantum ring in the previous setup is what allowed that to work. So we've got stored power here now. So when we flip the lever, it should swap the redstone out with the explosion. Now, can I pick this stuff up quickly? Just because I want it. That is pretty impressive, like performance-wise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, I was pretty close with my estimation. I guess I should go turn off that mob spawner for chaos crystals.